Let's be honest. You're not ready, and you know it. This isn't an accusation. It's the silent truth that's been shadowing you for years. That emptiness you feel, that gnawing discomfort that lingers even when life looks fine on the surface. It isn't random anxiety. It's a warning. The universe sharpening the blade before placing it in your hands. Haven't you noticed? Just before something monumental is about to break through, life unravels. Friendships shatter. The body falters. Doors close. Motivation dies. You mistake it for regression, but in truth, you're being stripped bare. Everything false, fragile, and rotten is being torn away. This is not punishment. It's preparation. Here's the secret almost no one understands. The universe doesn't hand power to the unrefined. It doesn't reward effort or luck. It rewards transformation. And transformation cannot be faked. Asking isn't enough. Wanting isn't enough. You must become someone who can carry the weight of what you seek. Carl Jung saw this with piercing clarity. The unconscious grows restless, and when it decides change can no longer wait, it doesn't politely knock. It throws you into chaos, because chaos is the language the soul uses to rewrite itself. That breakup you never expected, that betrayal that cut too deep, that job lost when you needed it most. These weren't accidents. They were surgical strikes, cutting out what was rotting, what was binding you to a life too small. But you called it injustice. Do you know your greatest obstacle? It isn't the world. It isn't the system. It isn't other people. It's you, the version of you still clinging to the past, the part that craves transformation, but won't surrender control, the part that begs for evolution, but refuses to die. And yes, die. Because for something new to be born in you, something old has to burn away. The ego, for example, that protective shell that once kept you safe has now become your prison. The ego doesn't want change. It wants comfort. It wants results without risks, security without growth. And when transformation knocks, the ego resists with everything it has. That resistance is what you call suffering. But suffering is not the enemy. It's the signal. It's the threshold. Pain means you're crossing into new territory, and no threshold is crossed without cost. Did you really think you could be reborn without paying the price? That silence you feel, that hollow space, it isn't abandonment. It's the pause between collapse and creation, the fertile ground left after the fire. And in that soil, whatever you plant will grow stronger than ever, if you plant with awareness. Because this in-between, this fragile moment between who you were and who you are becoming, is sacred. This is where destiny takes shape. This is where you choose. Will you be the echo of your past or the author of something entirely new? So look within. What patterns still own you? What fears are you still feeding? What control are you still clutching? These are the questions the universe hurls at you when it prepares you for something greater. Answer them truthfully or remain unready. Not because you don't deserve what you want, but because without transformation, you couldn't hold it without collapsing under its weight. Life doesn't give you what you plead for. It gives you what you embody. And embodiment means you've faced, head on, everything that once kept you small. That's why the trials aren't punishment. They're training. Every betrayal was a lesson in boundaries. Every failure, a demand for wiser choices. Every loss, a reminder that nothing outside you is permanent, and the only fortress worth building is within. All the while you thought the universe was silent, but it wasn't. It was watching, watching how you chose, from the wound or from wisdom, from fear or from truth, from anger or from peace. And that's the true test. Not how you stand when life is easy, but how you rise when everything falls apart. This is where your essence is revealed. And if that essence is real, authentic, it will open doors you never imagined. Because the universe doesn't reward the smartest or the strongest or even the kindest. It rewards coherence. It rewards the one who dares to live aligned with their truth, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Do you know why? Because true transformation is silent. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't hunger for likes. It doesn't beg for validation. It grows in darkness, in solitude, in the quiet sacrifice no one sees. And when it emerges, it no longer argues. It no longer tries to convince. It simply is. So if you're in a season where nothing makes sense, where everything feels paused, blocked, and heavy, don't run. Don't escape. Don't misinterpret it. Look deeper. You might already be standing in the very center of the transformation you prayed for. You just haven't yet proven you're ready to carry it. And here is the real challenge. How do you respond when the universe falls silent? How do you move when there are no signs? What do you choose when no one is applauding? Because the truth is this: the world is filled with people who want to change their lives, but almost none are willing to change themselves. They want the next chapter, but refuse to close the last one. They crave the extraordinary, but cling to the familiar. That's not how transformation works. The alchemy of change begins the moment you stop searching outside for what can only be built inside. When you decide that your peace is worth more than any reward. When you realize that what happens to you is not personal, it's universal. We all pass through this fire, but most flee before the flame is finished. Will you stay? Will you allow the ego to crumble so that something truer, deeper, and freer can emerge? Because if you do, the universe will notice. And then, you won't have to chase change. Change will find you, inevitably. And here lies the paradox. The moment you no longer need it, that's when it comes. Because you've become the kind of person who no longer depends on outcomes, only on the process. And that is what the universe has been waiting for all along. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. But now comes the sharper question: are you willing to take the test? Because there's a difference between being tested and being revealed. Yes, life pushes you through trials, but the deeper truth is this: trials don't just shape you, they expose you. They drag into the light what was already there. When the universe shakes you, it isn't building something new from the outside. It's showing you what you already were, but had never faced. That's where most people get lost. They think they're being destroyed, but they're not. They're being revealed. And sometimes what surfaces isn't pretty. Insecurity, the hunger for approval, dependency disguised as love, arrogance disguised as confidence, fear disguised as caution. It was always inside you, but under pressure, you can no longer hide it. And here's the truth most resist. Pressure doesn't create your cracks. It only exposes them. Once they're visible, you can't pretend anymore. You either face them or hide behind empty phrases like, "everything happens for a reason," never touching the real meaning. But here's the twist. Life doesn't put you through trials to test your strength. It does it to sharpen your vision. You don't need to be stronger. You need to see more clearly. See the habits you repeat without thinking. See the lies you've told yourself since childhood. See the stories you keep clinging to so you don't have to admit. You can't stay who you were. And this is where the shadow enters. The part of you you buried to be accepted. The parts you silenced to be loved. The truth you hid so you could fit in. Carl Jung warned us. You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by dragging your darkness into consciousness. That's what this is. The tests are lanterns. They force you to shine light exactly where you've refused to look. And this is why so many never change, even when their entire life is screaming for it. Because most people prefer to stay broken in the familiar rather than healed in the unknown. The ego clings to the wound because at least it's predictable. But real transformation doesn't happen in the known. It happens in the leap. And to leap, you must first let go. Letting go isn't surrender. It isn't giving up. It's trust. It's telling life, I have no control, but I believe this has meaning. And that belief isn't blind. It's certainty. The kind that comes when you look back and realize that everything you lost, every heartbreak, every fall, every silence, was exactly what you needed to lose. Every loss was a meeting with a part of yourself you hadn't met yet. True awakening isn't always mystical, full of lights and epiphanies. Sometimes it's a Wednesday afternoon, sitting in your car, crying and realizing you can't keep living as if nothing is happening inside you. It's brutal, it's raw, but it's real. And real is the only thing that transforms. Everything else is spiritual entertainment. The universe isn't here to amuse you. It's here to awaken you, to remind you again and again. What you seek is already within you, buried beneath layers of fear, pride, control, and self-deception. You want to manifest a new reality? Good. But understand this. The price is your current version of yourself. You cannot carry it forward. Not because it's bad, but because it's incomplete. It was built from survival, not from truth. This is the next level. Surviving is not living. The ego survives. The soul lives. As long as you keep avoiding pain, pleasing others, maintaining control, you remain in survival. But when you act from truth, without guarantees, without results, simply for coherence within yourself, that is when life truly begins. Do you know the most powerful thing you can do when the universe tests you? It's not resist. It's not endure. It's listen. Every test carries a message, not written in ink, encoded in the pain. What bothers you the most is what you most need to examine. What scares you the most is what you most need to face. Pain is not the enemy. The problem is not knowing how to read it. If you keep seeing hardship as injustice, you miss the gift hidden inside. You're not being punished. You're being called to remember who you are beneath all your masks. The universe doesn't want you strong. It wants you honest. Because from honesty comes power, the kind that doesn't impose. It radiates naturally. This is the essence of true change, not creating a new version of yourself, but letting emerge the one that's always been there, hidden beneath everything you were taught to be. Are you willing to let it out? Because only that determines whether you're ready to receive what you've asked for. Remember, you are not what happens to you. You are how you respond. And when your response comes from truth, not fear, the universe responds. It has always been a mirror. Finally, you can look at yourself without lies. Do you want to keep going? Because this is only the beginning. Now let's get uncomfortable. Let's shake the foundations. Let's confront the self-deception hiding in plain sight. What if it's not the universe stopping you, but yourself? Not fear of failure, but fear of success. Because deep down, you may not fear falling, but shining. Shining brings responsibility. It means the reality you've asked for leaves no room for excuses. You must step forward. And this is where the mind becomes your trap, a relentless factory of justifications, of stories that make you feel busy while you go in circles. Does this sound familiar? The feeling of moving, planning, learning, but never truly progressing? It's the trap of infinite preparation, the lie of, I'm still not ready. And here's the truth. You'll never feel ready for the unknown if you wait for preparation alone. Because true preparation isn't completed before the leap. It's forged during the fall. The mind protects you, yes, but it also paralyzes you. Its job isn't happiness, its job is safety. Even if that safety is a cage disguised as stability. And so you repeat the mantra, better the known evil, better wait a little longer, better not risk it yet. And the universe watches in silence, waiting for you to release the rope. Because until you do, no miracle can reach you. Here is the brutality of the process. Internal change isn't measured by intention. It's measured by action. Not by what you want. It's measured by what you're willing to leave behind. And here's a truth most refuse to accept. You cannot carry your old identity and step into a new life. You cannot demand a different reality without being willing to change your role in it. Many desire transformation, but refuse to change themselves. That is the most sophisticated form of self-sabotage. You think you're moving toward your destiny, but you're dragging a suitcase full of the past. Old thoughts, automatic reactions, the need to always be right, addiction to drama, the obsession with understanding before trusting. And what happens when you bring that into the future? You repeat the past, over and over, different names, different scenarios, different excuses, but the same pattern underneath it all. Now let's talk cycles, not calendar cycles, but personal ones. Loops that repeat with surgical precision. You always end up in the same kind of relationship, the same type of conflict, the same breaking point. Why? Because you didn't learn. Because instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You must ask, why is this happening again? Until you respond differently, the cycle continues. Life isn't ruled by time, it's ruled by awareness. Without awareness, there is only repetition. But when you awaken, even just a little, enough to see that you cannot stay the same, there's no going back. Awakening is irreversible. It can hurt. It can confuse. It can make you doubt everything. But you cannot fully sleep again. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. Even if you try to return to old habits, they no longer fit. You are no longer the same. And that is beautiful. But it is also hard. Because no one warns that the price of awakening is constant discomfort, a hunger for truth, an intolerance for anything that smells like a lie, especially when it comes from yourself. Here's an even deeper truth, the grief of identity. To become who you're destined to be, you must first say goodbye to who you were. Not just habits, but the image you built of yourself. The figure you created to survive, to be loved, to fit in. You will have to let it die. Accept that many of the things you defended tooth and nail were shields against vulnerability. Accept that the strength you displayed was often a mask over fear. And yes, that hurts. It hurts to see how long you were trapped in an idea of yourself that wasn't fully true. But that pain is medicine. The more sincerely you confront your illusions, the more space you create for authenticity. And in that raw, unadorned space, the universe begins to act. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, human, honest. Growing from the center, not the facade. And when you reach this place, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing external signs. You no longer need proof that everything will be okay, because you know, because you feel. You become the kind of person who doesn't need guarantees to keep walking, who no longer negotiates with intuition, who no longer postpones truth, who knows that even without seeing the entire path, the next step can be trusted. And that, perhaps, is the greatest change of all, to stop searching for certainties and start living from presence, from surrender, from conscious surrender, not as defeat, but as wisdom. Because the one who truly surrenders doesn't give up. They align, they adapt, they transform. And then, and only then, the universe responds with clarity. Life doesn't answer to your desires. It responds to your frequency. When your frequency is coherent, when your energy is no longer divided between longing and fear, between words and actions, everything changes because the universe simply mirrors you. Here you are, on the edge, facing the most honest, most powerful version of yourself. The question is no longer, will you make it? The real question is, will you dare to stop being who you were and become who you're destined to be? Standing at the edge of your inner abyss, only one choice remains: jump, or keep collecting excuses disguised as logic. Because yes, the hardest part isn't changing. The hardest part is ending the justifications for not doing it. The hardest part is accepting that life transforms not with intentions, but with decisions. And the moment to decide isn't tomorrow, not when you're stronger, not when you're less broken. The moment is now, now, the only moment when you are truly free. But be careful, I'm not talking about an impulsive leap or empty motivation. I'm talking about that quiet moment when your soul whispers, without words, enough. Enough begging for validation, enough settling for familiar pain, enough wanting change without facing your shadows, enough postponing your truth. That enough isn't shouted, it's felt. And when it arrives, you recognize it. Everything within you aligns and reasons become unnecessary. You simply move. And in that step, what was invisible before becomes clear. Clarity doesn't precede the decision. It follows it. So stop waiting for the sign. The sign is you. When you choose to stop looking back, when you respond to the universe, not with pleas, but with commitment. Because in the end, the universe doesn't hear words, it watches your actions. And here's the closing truth no one expects. What you desire already exists. It's already unfolding in a timeline where you chose differently, where you broke the patterns, where you stopped seeking permission, where you refused to negotiate your essence. That version of you is alive, right now. Do you want it? Then act like her. Breathe like her. think like her, decide like her, because the secret isn't forcing the future. It's becoming someone who makes it inevitable. Do it. Not from pressure, not from fear, not to prove anything to anyone. Do it for the part of you that knows you didn't come here to merely survive. You came to burn from the inside out, until only authenticity remains. That part of you that doesn't need approval to exist. That part already awake, waiting for you to rise. And now I challenge you. If you've made it this far, if something within resonated, seal it with a phrase. Go to the comments and write, I am ready to become who I've always been. Not to prove anything, but to remind yourself in your own voice that the change has already begun. And if this struck you, if it made you question even one certainty, subscribe. Not to follow someone, but to dive deeper into yourself. We're not here to entertain the ego. We're here to dissolve it. And so I leave you with a farewell unlike any other. A warning that leaves a mark. The next time you feel everything falling apart, don't run. Observe, breathe, reflect. Because it might not be your end. It might be the exact beginning of your true story. See you on the other side. The side where you no longer fake, where you no longer run, where you no longer wait, where you simply are. Simply create, simply live. Until then, the universe is already taking note.